Well. Today is a brand new day. And the standard we're working on for today is public speaking school. Now, children, as I have announced to the other classes, what an opportunity it is that you all have here. No class that I've ever had, and probably no class for the rest of my career, will have the privilege of having 2 years straight of public speaking school. Some of you in here are great when it comes to History Mania, but some of you in here are great when it comes to public speaking school. And you know what I'm biased to, because I feel like public speaking school is the most important thing that I can ever give to you as your teacher. So, before we get started, I'm going to quickly introduce our 3 speakers for today and what parts they have. So, first, giving our public talk will be Miss Ava Terrell. After Ava Terrell, our Digging for Historical Gems part will be taken care of by our dear friend, Mr. Tommy DeBone. And last and certainly not least, our historical reading taken from page 268 will be done by our dear friend, Mr. Nebu Orea. So we're not going to waste time. We're going to go ahead and get right into our program. Introducing first, delivering the public talk, Immigrants, is our dear friend, Miss Ava Terrell.
Hi, and I will be giving you the public talk section of public speaking school titled Immigrants. About 25 million immigrants moved to the United States during the years 1800 and 1924. They usually came to America for work, but they also came to escape war or persecution. Persecution is unfair treatment or punishment. For example, many Jews were hurt or killed because of their religion in Europe. Another example of persecution was the Trail of Tears. Even though they couldn't really migrate, it was still an example of persecution because people were treating them differently just because they had a different race. Please follow along as I read page 226, paragraph 2. I mean 266, paragraph 2. Immigrants are looking for work. Growing businesses like those of Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller offered plenty of jobs. Some immigrants also came to escape war or persecution. Persecution is unfair treatment or punishment. For example, many Jews in Eastern Europe were hurt or killed because of their religion. Jewish people hoped to escape persecution by moving to the United States. Immigrants usually came from Southern and Eastern Europe and Northern and Western Europe. The immigrants before 1800 came from Ireland, Germany, England, Sweden, Denmark, and other countries in Northern and Western Europe. The newer immigrants came from Southern or Eastern Europe. They came from Italy, Russia, Hungary, Greece, and Poland. Some also came from Mexico. The countries that they came from changed because there was more war and persecution in different places. Ellis Island and Angel Island were immigration stations. Immigration stations were places where immigrants had to be checked for diseases before they were allowed to enter the U.S. and ask them where they planned to live or work. One disease that they always checked for was called trachoma, a highly contagious and difficult to cure eye disease. Eyelids were pulled downward to see if immigrants had symptoms of this dreadful disease. Almost all European immigrants were allowed to enter America, but Asian immigrants had to wait weeks, months, or even years to be allowed into America. About 25% of them had to go back home. Many Asian immigrants were forced to prove they had a husband or father who was a U.S. citizen to be deported. From 1910 to 1940, Asian immigrants were detained and interrogated at Angel Island Immigration Station in San Francisco Bay. Please follow along as I read page 268, paragraph 1. Entering the United States, most immigrants settled near family or friends. Immigrant communities in big cities grew quickly. In some cities, whole neighborhoods were made up of a single ethnic group. An ethnic group is a group of people who share a culture or language. In ethnic neighborhoods, immigrants spoke their native languages, practiced their religions, and kept their country's customs. Immigrants usually moved near family or friends when they entered America. In some places, whole neighborhoods were made out of a single ethnic group. An ethnic group is a group of people who share a culture. In places like that, people spoke their native languages, practiced their religion, and kept their country customs. Please follow along as I read page 269, paragraph 3. The United States today includes the great-grandchildren of immigrants who came in search of freedom and better lives in the 1800s and early 1900s. Immigration in the early 20th century mattered because all of us in this room would be in a different country, none of us would know each other, and I wouldn't be giving this speech right now. If we lived in a different country, then some of us wouldn't even know English. Let's take Chaley for an example. If she hadn't immigrated from Asia, then none of us would know her. In conclusion, life just wouldn't be the same if we didn't have immigrants.
Okay. Ava, I really, along with the audience, want to thank you for such a well-delivered public talk. One thing that I always love about public speaking school is that now we have the technology to put it on camera and to record it. And there are some talks that we see where if you really want to give a great public talk, we've got great examples to look at. And what Ava just did, especially with our new format of only going about 5 to 6 minutes, that was an expert delivered talk. You can't get any better than what she just did up here. And so when you get assignments in the future to give public talks, I would advise you that as soon as this is uploaded, that you go back and you study the way she delivered her part. Some key things that I noticed was her audience contact, the way that she viewed you all as she was going in her talk, and then the extra information provided, the extra information that is not in the social studies book. She talked about a dreadful eye disease that was contracted by a lot of the immigrants and how people had fear of letting them into America because of a particular disease. That's information that sometimes is not right there in your social studies book, but it brings the points closer to you because you realize that you can be in control of your learning. And lastly, her pace was great. Her timing, 5 minutes, 3 seconds. Right between 5 minutes and 6 minutes. That's what she was directed to do. She accomplished that. I tell you, again, that is an expert talk that we just viewed. The last thing I want to cover, her counsel point was fluent delivery. And to do that, you need to read and speak in such a manner that your words and thoughts flow smoothly. When delivery is fluent, speech is not jerky or painfully slow, and there is no stumbling over words or groping for thoughts. And the key, why is it important to have fluent delivery? When a speaker lacks fluency, the minds of the listeners may wander, wrong ideas may be conveyed, and what is said may lack persuasiveness. That talk, her fluency was on point. We could all understand what she was talking about when she said for you to view what life would be like if we didn't have immigrants. So once again, we'd like to give a big round of applause to Miss Ava Terrell. So now we're going to move on to the part that you all have been preparing very hard for this week. It's a part where you get to be the superstar, where you get to show, especially in questions 3 and 4, how it connects to you. And most of all, Oh my goodness. Woo! I'm getting old. My back is hurting me. I don't know what you guys did all summer, but I know what I did all summer. And all summer, I was digging. But what was I digging for? I was digging for historical gems. But I found a man who likes to dig deep, down to the bone. Was that good? Okay, all right. Let's invite up our second student speaker handling our digging for historical gems part. Let's invite up Mr. Tom DeBone.
Can I get a reader for page 266, paragraph 3? Josh.
Most immigrants found greater politician freedom in America as well. A man in Soviet expressed immigrants' feelings when he said, "In America, everything is possible."
Great reading. Sam.
Most immigrants found greater political freedom in America as well. A man from Slovenia expressed immigrants' feelings when he said, "In America, everything was possible."
Great reading. Question 1. What is persecution, to give an example of it? Nahum.
Persecution is an unfair treatment or punishment. An example of persecution is many Jews in Eastern Europe were hurt or killed because of their religion. Also, Jewish people had hoped to escape persecution by moving to the United States.
Great answer. My answer is that persecution is an unfair treatment or punishment. For example, many Jews in Eastern Europe were hurt or killed because of their religion. Can I get a reader for page 267, paragraph 2? Simone.
Once immigrants arrived in the United States, they went through immigration stations such as Ellis Island in New York Harbor. Government workers at the station asked newcomers about where they planned to live and work. Doctors examined the immigrants to be sure they didn't have diseases that could spread to others. Almost all European immigrants who came to the United States were allowed to enter.
Great reading. Question 2. In what ways are Asian immigrants treated differently from immigrants from Europe? Emmy.
The Asian immigrants on Angel Island had to stay for a few weeks, months, or even years before allowed being to the United States compared to the other immigrants when they moved to the United States to find jobs.
Great answer. My answer is when Asian people arrived to the U.S., they had to go through immigration stations. They faced more prejudice than European immigrants, and Asian immigrants on Angel Island had to stay for weeks, months, and even years before being allowed to enter the United States. Question 3. What does this week's reading teach me about history? Sam.
This week's reading teaches me about immigration in the late 1800s. Also, it teaches me about persecution and how the Jews are being treated unfairly. Another thing I found is about Ellis Island, an island that was open from 1892 to 1924. They opened Ellis Island so they could control immigrants better on the eastern side. The people that controlled Ellis Island did not control it fairly.
Great answer. Caleb.
I learned that 25 million immigrants moved to the United States in the years between 1880 and 1924. And most immigrants were born before 1880 came from Ireland, Germany, England, Sweden, Denmark, and other countries of Northern or Western Europe.
Great answer. Anyone? Emmy?
This week's history lesson taught me very important things. Everyone should be able to learn history, such as the differences of Asian immigrants and the European immigrants. I found most people would not even be here, so it is important to know that we know about our history because of how some people were harmed during that, even forced to move.
Great answer. Nahum?
This week's reading teaches me about how immigrants changed life in the 20th century. Also, immigrants had to go to Ellis Island or Angel Island to go in the U.S. Another thing I learned is what immigrants did to change the U.S. economy at the start of the 20th century.
Great answer. Jaylee?
This teaches me about the history of immigrants that had unfair treatment and no respect. Also, it teaches me about that Jews were not very popular and never had respect. It also teaches me that if no Asian immigrants came, I wouldn't be here right now reading my answer. Also, it teaches me about how other people will hurt or kill for prejudice reasons.
Great answer. Question 4. What other historical gems did you find from this week's reading? Jalen?
I found out that Angel Island is located in San Francisco Bay. I found out that Asian immigrants had faced more prejudice than the immigrants from Europe. I also found out that Asian immigrants on Angel Island had to stay for weeks, months, or even years before being allowed to enter the United States.
Great answer. Caleb?
I learned that if my cousin's family stayed in South Korea, most of them would have worked for the president of North Korea, and they would have been treated bad. I feel bad for their ancestors because some of them were immigrants, and they were first living on Angel Island, and when they moved to the United States, they were examined to see if they had diseases.
Great answer. Sam?
My family's religion is that we are Jews. My family migrated from someplace in Northern Europe. They moved to the United States in the early 1900s, so they missed most of Hitler and the Nazis, but were still furious about what he did to all of the Jews in Germany. Hitler and the Nazis put the Jews in concentration camps and some other people, but mainly Jews. He put them in camps because of their blue eyes and how they looked and their religion. He said that it is bad to be different, but now we know that it's good to be different from everybody.
Great answer. Nahum?
Another historical gem I found this week is that many immigrants came to America for religious freedom. Also, the United States experienced a lot of immigration during the colonial era, the first part of the 19th century and from the 1800s to the 1920s. What I also learned this week is that Ellis Island was the largest immigration station in the United States from 1892 to 1924. Another thing is that people do not have ancestors that were from America. Most ancestors came because of war or they were being persecuted to have a better life.
Great answer. My answer is that I found out that most immigrants found greater political freedom in America. I also learned that government workers at the immigration stations asked newcomers about where they plan to live and work. Another thing I learned is that an ethnic group is a group of people who share the same culture or language, and that a tenement is a poorly built apartment, and that it is usually crowded and unsafe. Another thing I also learned about the Chinese Exclusion Act.
I don't know what it is, but it seems as if we have a year of experience already covering these assignments. Not only have I seen an expert public talk, I just saw an expert digging for historical gems part. And what I love about the way Tommy conducted that part was that he tried to call on as many different people as he could. He gave you all time. but most importantly, the use of his time. He only went over by 14 seconds. Now, the part is built to go 8 minutes. He went 8 minutes and 14 seconds. When you think about it, 14 seconds is not a lot of time. But this is where I say this was an expert part. The amount of comments that Tommy was able to get, 16 comments in that Digging for Historical Gems part. 16. Which means there were 16 different experiences, 16 different perspectives, 16 different ways to learn. Now you think about that. Me as your teacher, Miss Lucas, Miss Merrigan, we may teach you all how to learn something in math, for example, maybe 2, maybe 3 different ways. But if you embrace the opportunity to take control of your own learning, you can learn in up to 16 different ways. And that's just this week. Tommy came up here, he conducted the part very efficiently. He made great use of his time, and the way the man is dressed, he's giving their home a run for his money as far as best dress goes for the day. So one last point I want to make about your dressing and grooming. I made it plenty of times last year, so I'm not going to spend too much longer on it now. Remember, before people hear a word out of your mouth, they see how you're dressed. When you get older and you start looking for jobs and you start looking for ways to support yourself and your family, before someone allows you to work for them, they're going to see how you're dressed. If you learn how to dress properly in 4th and now in 5th grade, by the time you're going to go get a job, it won't be difficult. And by the time you're going to go get a job, learning how to have mastery over the art of public speaking, you don't know it now, but it's going to take you very far in life. So now, it's time for us to have our last part of the public speaking school. We're going to invite up our dear friend, Mr. Nebu Araya. He's going to be doing the historical reading for us, and it's taken from page 268. Let's give a warm round of applause to Mr. Araya.
Hi, my name is Nebu Araya, and please turn to page 268, chapter 8. And read along. Living in a new country. After entering the United States, most immigrants settled near family or friends. Immigrant communities in big cities grew too. In some cities, whole neighborhoods were made up of a single ethnic group. An ethnic group is a group of people who share a culture or language. An ethnic neighborhood, immigrants spoke their native languages, practiced their religions, and kept their country's customs. Immigrant lives were not easy. Some worked in dangerous steel mills, others had jobs in noisy and dirty factories, where they sewed clothes or made thread. Nearly all worked long hours for low pay, making so little money they could barely buy food for themselves or their families. Many newcomers lived in tenements. A tenement is a poorly built apartment building. Tenements were crowded and unsafe. They often had no windows, running water. Several families might live in one small apartment. Hard times for immigrants. As neighborhoods changed, immigrants faced prejudice from people who were frightened by unfamiliar languages or customs. Employees like to hire immigrants because they worked hard and long for little pay. For the same reason, people worried about losing their jobs to immigrants and wanted immigration stopped.
Nephew, I really enjoyed your reading. I could tell that you practiced that reading a lot. When you came up here, you have a very calm demeanor about yourself. It's very rare that I see you get angry, and you translated that as you were reading. You delivered your information. You were confident. I noticed, especially when you first started, that you made it a point to look up at your audience. The only way that you'd be able to look up at your audience and still keep on going is if you had practiced. The biggest thing that stood out to me, though, about your reading was that you didn't give up. A lot of people have had problems with the word prejudice. It's kind of a new word coming up for us, and it's a little difficult to pronounce. You had trouble with it, but that didn't stop you from completing your reading. And that is a key part in continuing to get better at something. Now, we have some people in here who are doing sports already, and we have some people who want to do sports in the future, or maybe something along those areas. One key thing when you are engaged in a sport, and when you're trying to learn anything, is that you're not going to be 100% successful all the time. For example, lifting weights. If you want to lift 100 pounds, when you first try 100 pounds, you're probably not going to get it. But if you keep working at it, and you have someone to spot you, someone to help you as you're trying to lift that weight, eventually you're going to be strong enough to be able to lift that weight. And it's the same with public speaking, and especially public reading. You may not be the greatest reader when you first start off, but if you keep at it and you keep practicing, you're going to be an expert reader. I know a lot of you think that I am a really good reader, but I was not that way. Long ago, I was one of the kids being pulled out of class to get extra help with reading. But yet, you see where I am today. So if I can do it and your other teachers can do it, you can do it as well. When Nephew first started in public speaking school last year, Nephew was not as good as a reader as he is today. That's improvement. You keep working at it. Now, he's able to get up and give great historical readings, just like the one that we saw today. So, I am proud of all my students. I am proud of you all as an audience. And let's just give all ourselves a big round of applause. And you know that anytime we have public speaking school, and anytime it is this good, then you all have helped to make it a very special